Good Lord, YouTube. How y'all doing? It's Mike. This is my basement. This is my channel, Solid State Alchemy. And, I'm just down here chilling in the underbelly of the YouTube algorithm, watching all these, high-performing YouTube channels talk about the RTX 3080. And what most of them aren't talking about is that concurrent with the announcement of the RTX 3080, Nvidia also announced what is basically the final, and we've been saying this for like the last two generations of GPUs from Nvidia, the final nail in the coffin of SLI. SLI is dead. Long live SLI. For whatever reason, whether it's for good or ill, I have always been attracted to the idea of multi-GPUs working in sync, trying to be better, faster, stronger than one single monolithic giant GPU, super powerful GPU. But there have always been hindrances. The biggest of which being the bandwidth between the two GPUs, right? So let's just walk it back a little bit and talk, as I like to say, let's go back to 5th grade and bring it forward, right? So SLI, AMD calls it Crossfire, is the ability of, forgive me if I seem a little bit distracted, my cat is in here and she's trying to get into the interior of our walls through the water main bib, so I may have to stop her from doing that. Foxglove. Hey. Just 1 second. Cat. Yeah. Come on. Alright. Okay. The cat absconded. So anyway, SLI Crossfire, if you're on Team Red, AMD, is the ability of two GPUs to talk concurrently, right? Those two GPUs generally have to be of the same make. They don't have to be the same model, right? They don't have to be the same manufacturer or AIB, right? You can crossfire a Sapphire RX 570 or RX 580 with an XFX RX 580, right? Or you can crossfire an EVGA GTX 980 with an MSI GTX 980. You just have to get the link to physically connect the two cards. It's kind of like a little mini PCI slot on the top of the cards. They call them fingers. They stick up here. I can just grab one. Does this card have fingers? No, of course the first one I grabbed doesn't. Okay, here we go. Here's an oldie but a goodie. This is a GTX 295. Now this card, this card does SLI all by itself, right? Because when you flip it around, this one's got a little bit of a heatsink issue. It's a little bit. When you flip it around, you see, well, kind of, sort of, that right there is a GPU die, and that right there is a GPU die. So this is two GPUs on one card. This card SLIs all on its lonesome. As soon as you plug it in the PCIe slot, right there on the motherboard, it's already trying to SLI all by itself. But it still has the little SLI finger right there. This is like the very, very first, one of the very first implementations or modes of SLI. AMD's gone back and forth through its generation. Sometimes you need a physical connector and sometimes you don't. It will do it through the PCIe, through software, through firmware in the motherboard. It's kind of hit and miss. You got to do your research to figure out which card, which version of Crossfire your card supports or needs. Sometimes AMD cards, even though they have physical connections that make them Crossfire ready, they don't actually need them. They can actually just like slot in next to each other and don't even need to be connected and will still Crossfire. It's kind of wonky with AMD. Typically with Nvidia cards, you need a link to put them into SLI. Now, the problem with SLI has always been bandwidth across that link, right? How much information could be shared between the two GPUs? We got the HB, the high bandwidth links, not with the Pascal series, and then Turing, and now the Ampere series, but only one particular model from the Ampere series is going to use the NVLink architecture, and that's like a 50 megabit per second link between the cards, meaning that, so for the Nvidia Pro Professional series, what they call Quadro series cards, those cards can now share VRAM. So that was always the limitation prior in all iterations, both AMD and Nvidia prior to this, going back all the way to the very first Crossfire or very first SLI. I think Nvidia had a different name before they called it SLI. I don't recall what that is. You've never been able to quote unquote double up your RAM. You could double up your GPUs, but they could never share RAM. It was never a VRAM or frame buffer doubling exercise, right? So if you had two cards with 2 gigabytes of frame buffer VRAM each, that wasn't like you now had 4 gigabytes of VRAM buffer, because the two GPUs could not pool their resources like that. So it's always been a hindrance. And now that we finally are getting to the point where Nvidia has gotten the NVLink system so fast and fast enough that Quadro cards can share RAM, and they've decided to basically cancel the entire, for real this time. They're like, it's like a dealer at Atlantic City. They've just like done. It's on the developers. If the game developer wants to support NVLink, SLI, and RAM pooling, and dual GPU implementations, they can make the profile themselves. We are no longer helping. So that's it. That is really it, because no developer is going to invest 1 millisecond of time in their game development cycle, which is always fraught with, look at the Red Dead 2 release, right? Those guys just were not prepared for how many different combinations of CPU, GPU, RAM, operating system they were going to come across in the wild, right? So we had all kinds of issues, right? There's no way they're going to add one more crazy ass variable that is Crossfire and SLI. They're just not going to do it. There's no fiscal incentive for them to do it. And the portion of the gaming community or PC enthusiast community that wants it is tiny. It's the fraction of a fraction that actually wants these dual GPU implementations to go forward. And so, it's going to die. This is really it, guys. Really it. SLI is dead. Crossfire basically died with the 5700 XT, and this is the end of an era. Dual GPU and quad GPU and triple GPU game rendering is on its way out. For real. I seriously would be surprised if any new games in 2021 have even the remotest semblance of an SLI profile in their makeup, or that a driver that an Nvidia driver supports. It's just not going to happen. So with that, got to take a nice good slug of my tasty libation before we talk about anything else, right? So with that being said, I personally am sitting behind me, right in front of a a ridiculous cache or cache, if you got your pinky up, it's cache, of dual GPU cards. And a lot of them I have doubles of. Like, mostly for the AMD cards, I have doubles of. So 2 dual GPU cards, or what is colloquially known as Quadfire. It's double the Crossfire. It's not just two single GPUs, but 2 dual GPUs. But not only AMD, I do have a small representation of Nvidia as well with the double stack. So I got this bad boy, this GTX 295 from PNY, but I also own one Zotac GTX 295, right? Oh, get him in there. Yep, there it is. Woo, get in the frame. Yay. Oh, look at that. Look at that art on these things. This is let me just chase a rabbit hole. In the words of Jay's 2 cents, I digress. Look, this is a lost art. This doesn't happen anymore. You cannot go on Newegg or go to Micro Center or go to Best Buy and buy a GPU with ridiculous schoolboy 7th grade art on it anymore. And that's a shame. I have to, channel my inner Jeremy Clarkson, the same thing about, he would probably feel the same way if he were a PC enthusiast. That this bleeds over from car enthusiasm. The fact that, that you can't just walk in and get just some ridiculous, tuner fanboy card right off the shelf is just, it's sad. We need to bring that back. I wish there'd be the waifu cards and the stuff from like AliExpress with like pinks and, puppies and Sanrio inspired cards. Those are funny. Don't get me wrong. I love that stuff. But we need to bring back like card art, like for real. That should be a movement. Like, bring it back. I want to see card art. I don't want to go in there and see, the cards now are just so bland and pedestrian. I mean, look at this thing. It's just sad. I mean, it's kind of slick and modern, but in a, I don't know, like a sci-fi kind of way. But seriously, like, nobody really wants this, I don't think. It's just like what's offered, right? Like, what I want is to walk in and see just like, yeah, here we go. Yeah, what I want to see, some badass chick with a gun, right? And swim goggles and spikes on a necklace. Yeah, that's what I want to see when I go to buy a GPU, right? So this is another 4870. This is a dual GPU card. You can see on the back there. Boop. Yep, there it is. One there, one there. That's the GPUs being held on. I can't move my fingers the right way. GPU heat sinks, or GPU springs, form springs holding the heat sink on. So, haha, and unfortunately for our gun-wielding friend here, unfortunately for her, I have dual water blocks for my 4870s. So that brings me to the reason for this video. Yes, SLI is dead. Long live SLI. Crossfire died last year. So 2020 just keeps killing off things we love. And I refuse to bend the knee. Bend the knee! No. So October is going to be Quadtoberfest. Okay? So I'm going to break out all of the PCIe lanes, right, with this bad boy. Going to put a Ryzen 1920X. Yeah, so it's got a 4.0 base frequency. I'm pretty sure I can overclock that to like 4.2 or not base, but boost frequency. I'll probably get 4.2, 4.3, all core overclock. I may actually turn off SMT just because, this is a 12-core CPU. I don't need 24 threads to run any of the games that still support Quadfire or Quad SLI. So, yeah, I might even be able to get like 4.4, 4.5 boost frequency, only running 12 threads. 12 cores, 12 threads on a motherboard with all of the PCIe lanes, right? That's the reason I chose a Threadripper platform, is because they have no issue running Quadfire setups. They're not PCIe limited. I do have a Quadfire certified first gen Core i series motherboard. I may use that as a contingency and I have an i7 875K, which is overclocked or unlocked. I mean, so I can overclock that, put a water block on it. I have a water block for my Threadripper, but I probably won't use it. I have a Threadripper air cooler too. This guy just came in the mail the other day. Be Quiet, Dark Rock Pro something TR4. So, and it's also got a bent fin. That's super awesome, right out of the box. Good job. That's one thing. Like, I bought this right off of Amazon, and they shipped it with no exterior box. They just put the factory Be Quiet box in the mail. It did an okay job, but I would have preferred it be a little bit more securely packaged. But yeah, so this bad boy right here, dual fins. This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 heat pipe, big old cold plate on there to made up to the Threadripper interface. So all of the cores, all of the PCIe lanes, Quadfire, Quad SLI. Most of these cards I have water blocks for. I'm gonna water block, and I got a Coleman cooler and a pump and some ice, and we're just gonna see. And I found an article. It's like the best games from 2019 with Quad Fire and Quad SLI profiles that still exist, and we're just gonna see them. I mean, I'll shell out some cash to see. I may have to go buy a few of these games and see how they run. I'm going to try to concentrate on games that were released as close to now as possible, as close to September of 2020 as possible, to see if we can get what is left. What is left for us, our hardware enthusiasts who just want to see two PCBs with 4 GPUs churning and burning through as many frames as possible, right? I mean, what's left for us? Is SLI and Crossfire and Quadfire and Quad SLI, are they truly dead? I'm afraid so, but I'm also not afraid to give it one last hurrah. So if you are interested in this kind of content, if that's something you're interested in seeing, if you're interested in seeing me probably fail a lot in trying to get Quad SLI and Quadfire GPUs to run reasonably well, usably well, then you should subscribe to my channel, Solid State Alchemy, and see what's going on. But yeah, so that's where we're at in 2020. What else can 2020 take from us? 2019 took Crossfire, and 2020 has finally, and for real this time, taken SLI from us. It's a crying shame. SLI is dead. Long live SLI.